So last week, the two superpowers, United States and the British government warned of a possible terrorist attack in Nigeria's federal capital territory, that's Abuja, especially aimed at government buildings, places of worship, schools, amongst other targets. So join us on the show very soon. We have our security expert, Mr. Sheyi Adetaya, who is a security and intelligence expert. So we heard about this story last week. Abuja has been on red alert since last week, and many residents have been scared. BC took the story that some, didn't show up at churches, was quite scanty. What is your own perspective on this? How do you think our government have been able to handle this alert issued by these two major countries?
Yeah, I think we've handled it the best way possible that any nation could handle such. And I know that a lot will be going on within the diplomatic level, considering the relationship that Nigeria as a nation, US and Britain have been enjoying, especially through this journey as we battle insurgency and terrorism in Nigeria. It's quite unfortunate that this kind of alert was issued. It's not the first time that we've seen our American friends acting in this manner. And we can tell you, basically, from my own length of experience, I will work with government, I will work at this level, having also had some form of relationship with those people. I don't think that the action is right. I don't think it's based on any credible intelligence. And from information that I have access to, it shows that it was just a knee-jerk reaction, and whoever took that decision didn't do it in a way that is expected to be done professionally, more or less like someone just trying to tick the box. Yes, we had that. Probably there's something, probably they picked up a dog, something that looked like an explosive that was checked not to be an explosive. But it's not the first time that American facilities have received such in different parts of the world. It's not a reason for someone to raise such a panic. Now, look at it now. Schools were already closed. Yeah. Businesses were shut. Even employees of many companies are afraid to go to work. That is not good for a nation that have been also so good to you. We have been good to America as a nation. And I think that we deserve that respect and that honor from them as a nation, not to do something that will destabilize us as a nation. So, we have nowhere else to go. And such panic is not good at this time.
I agree with you, sir, 100%. But I want to ask you, because we always talk about international best practice. If they suspected any form of terror attack, what do you think would have been the right way to go about it? What would they have done? How would they have spoken about it? How would they have, spoken to the government on the next steps to take?
Okay, for example, the line of communication between the U.S. government has been represented in Nigeria, and their Nigerian counterpart is an open one, very active one. There have been lots of intelligence sharing and participation and collaboration. So there's nothing that the American government knows as per Nigeria that Nigeria do not know. Please quote my word anywhere. They don't know 10% of what Nigerian government, Nigerian intelligence agencies know about our own country. There's nothing they can know that we do not know. Please underline this. Okay. Intelligence is not something that comes, some people were born with it. It is about you knowing your house. I cannot know your house as much as you do. And that is the truth. So it's not because the Americans, their intelligence officers are better than us. No, we've worked together. We know that we are far better than them when it comes to this space. So there's nothing they know that our people did not know. And that's something I also want to call our attention to. The fact that the DSS had an operation after that does not mean because they raised an alert. It's because DSS have been having operations before then. But because everywhere there was tension everywhere, people paid attention to the one that happened at that estate. That's the reason why people raised. But they have actually been doing lots of operations that didn't make it to the media. So our people have been working assiduously day and night. You see, do we have a problem? Yes, we know we have a problem. The problem did not start today. We've gone past through most turbulent period in the annals of this country, and yet they did not pack their things and start asking for authorized departure. Why now? Why now that Abuja has been calm for 7 years? Is it some people are making reference to the prison break in Abuja? In fact, the prison break in Abuja is the least of the prison breaks we've experienced.
We've had Kogi prisons, 2 prisons in Kogi, attacked more than 4 times with Boko Haram suspect escaped and they were rearrested. We have other prisons, that had Boko Haram, terrorists being in prison, broken into, and they were released. We have rearrested them.
Right.
So Kuje will not be the first.
Okay.
Most of these guys have been rearrested.
So we got this message, and it says this man was sick and rushed to the hospital by 11 p.m. After stabilizing him, the man's brother asked his wife to return home to be with the children for the night. By 2 a.m., the man died, and his brothers drove his corpse to the village in Abuja without informing the wife. The wife just learned this morning that her husband died and his corpse is somewhere in his village in Abi State. She's been screaming her lungs out and crying her eyes out. And I think apparently the man has been buried without any information to the wife. So initially when I saw Abia, I was thinking, okay, does this just happen in Igbo land? But somebody else replied and said, I'm not Igbo. I did marry an Igbo man as well. My own husband, died 15 years ago until today. My daughter and I don't know where he was buried. He was buried without us. We are both Yoruba. So this sort of treatment that is meted out to wives, after the passing of their husband is not peculiar to a particular tribe, but it happens. And that opens up the sort of conversation as how do we begin to protect ourselves as wives, as women, if after marriage, so when you are dating, they will say you don't have any, there's no link, you are just dating, you are not married, there's no covenants covering you. And so you can be treated anyhow. If anything happens, they say, okay, auntie, carry your bag and go to your father's house or just leave. But now that you're married, you're supposed to be protected under the covenant of marriage. And something like this happened, and family members also deem it fit to treat you in such a manner. How do we begin to even change the mindset of some of these family members, in-laws, men, women?
The truth is, sometimes it's not even about like a culture that determines that that's how a woman should be treated. God just help you that you don't get married into a family of just wicked people. Because sometimes, I've heard stories of a person that passes and this happens, and they'll be like, if it had happened the other way around, it would not have happened. That this is happening because a particular person is that way inclined, or just has a sort of negative feeling towards, the spouse that has been left behind. We can only talk, and we just keep talking to people to always remember to be kind, to always remember to be respectful, of all the people involved. And then the fact that as a country, we have a constitution, we have bodies that sort of give support to, we should have strengthened institutions that give support to families that go through this at such a time. The sad things that may have happened, but they need to be able to find a place that they can go and get redress, and on time. A redress that does not cost them so much. Because sometimes when we deal with these family issues, it will be in court for so many years. People have even moved on, and the impact is just so far-reaching, and sometimes people don't even want to go through that process. But if we can have our institutions that make it easy, to solve issues like that. But the truth is, it only comes from a place of unkindness. It comes from a place of just lack of empathy for what someone else is going through.
That's painful.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be seen from a place of lack of empathy. Sometimes when you are discerning, you understand people's ways of doing things. When my father died, my mom never saw him. The last she saw him was when he walked out of the house and said, I want to see my doctors, I'll be back.
Okay.
When he died, some people advised that, we take him back home because he was a scholar, his students should do the janaza. And I kept saying, if he dies here and is shot out to the cemetery where he should be buried, why do I have to go back home and then back? So my siblings agreed with me. I insisted we all sat together. Just 5 of us, no extended family member with us. We agreed. We informed our uncles, and we took our dad to the grave. So my mom till tomorrow keeps wondering, where did you bury my husband? But that was her father. And I thought it was better for her to not see him because they were a monogamous relationship for over 40 years.
But did you have a conversation with her? Did she know the day of the burial?
He was buried immediately, he died. We informed family members to be with her before it was announced. Okay. And by the time we got home, they had announced to her. We don't want her.
It's a different situation.
No, I'm just explaining. I'm using that as an example. I'm coming somewhere. You know, sometimes when I was dating, there was a person I was dating, and this mom was just gisting with me and said, you know, in our own family compound, was from the same village as well, said, when you are married to us, you stop eating bushmeat. And it didn't make sense, you know. But when you learn to respect the way, because those kind of people cannot come and do something to you tomorrow, you will surprise will come and catch you. Because people have their ways, and whatever they do, they have their rationale for doing it. You know, so but people don't learn anymore. You meet one person, you fall in love with that person. You say, okay, no, we're now in a modern world. I'm only in love with you. You don't know where he's from, his background, his ways. You don't know. I'm presently married to somebody from Ugbe family in Benin. Their family migrated from that place. That's where Zibiri's family is from. As a first son, I cannot claim tomorrow and say, I didn't bury my father and do the traditional rites, but I did for my father-in-law. In support of my husband, I stood by his side as first son. I cannot come and say, no, this is what we do here. When it comes to me, respect my Islamic rules. When it comes to my husband, he has some rights to perform on his father's side. I stood by his side. So I'm just trying to explain that sometimes when you marry in isolation, shocks will be coming. Because I love that somebody responded that person was from Ekiti. And we see these cultures clashing every time. These days, young girls, we just read Mills and Booms and fall in love. We don't study people's backgrounds, how their practices are. Sometimes it's practice. When I was in school, there was a young man from a Yoruba tribe, I always say here. I said no, because I've seen too much of that tribe's practices against women, and I didn't want to experience it in my life. No matter how much he came to my faculty, I just kept saying, I will marry you now. Before I know, I'm learning and relearning too many things. I don't want to live that kind of lifestyle. So maybe girls should be advised now. If you marry somebody from the general, maybe the most common Onitsha, which is more modern, you will say you have seen all of Igbo. When you move into Abia Ebonyi, you will shock. Even dialects are different.
It's political season, and all the various political players are expressing their thoughts on their manifesto. We've seen quite a few, and we'll continue to see more as we go by. But we'd like to open our phone lines to Nigerians today. What exactly are you expecting from the new administration that will emerge next year? Because we've heard a few people speak on what they will say, and some of them come across as vague. Some have tried to be more specific. Others seem to have a good intention. You know, some say, I want to turn Nigeria to a producing nation. Others say, I want to hit a GDP, at least a double-digit GDP. Others have said they want to hire about 1.5 million security for both military and policemen. Many, many promises have been made. What do Nigerians need? How do you feel? And what do you think our leaders should make as priority? That's our conversation today. You can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-76948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourView TVC so we can read your tweets. Doctor, you read a story, I think was one of the candidates that was telling us plans. Let's see a few of the things you've heard so far.
So specifically, it was a gubernatorial candidate for Enugu State. I believe his name was Frank Nweke, and I read him saying that the challenges within the Enugu State region had become, the security had become worse in Enugu State, and he was advising the current governor that before the change of power during the election, what can we do now? And he was saying that first, every traditional ruler must be brought on board. Many of them know the boys in their community. Many of them know, they know themselves better, and they must be integrated into buying into the security challenges and taking ownership of the challenges within their locality. He also said that the vigilantes, because we know that bandits are usually in the forest. So he mentioned how all the vigilantes that are operating in small silos within the state must be brought to attend that general meeting with all the chiefs of all the local governments. So everybody knows you are interacting with each other. This is what I asked from you and you did not give me. This is what I need from you. This is your the forest around your village I'm trying to access, and I know the bandits are there. And so everybody knows that we have a common goal to protect our forest so that businesses can thrive in that community. So he was asking the governors to set up the Security Council, and not just by words, but back it up with action. When I heard it, I was really impressed because I felt like, okay, yes, we've heard a few of these things, but it's just small gatherings, talk shop here. And I remember when Oyo State was trying to deal with the first phase of their challenge, was the way to resolve that issue was to bring in traditional rulers. Because the governor was saying that time that they were having Fulani, there was attacks clash between Fulani and the way they were able to quell this at that time was by involving traditional rulers and letting them understand what their stake was, bringing in the traditional, the custodians of Fulani settlements around, and they were able to bring a bit of peace at that time. Security right now is worrisome.
I mean, BC, what are your thoughts on all that you've heard, various candidates coming up saying all sorts of things? And what, as a Nigerian, what do you think should be priority? We've had issues on education, healthcare, roads, infrastructure. And, you know, we've heard some of these promises before. I was saying, what exactly do we want?
For me, we're still looking at the issues from the top. The political parties have not really gotten my attention in terms of trying to solve the matter from the root, where you have to uproot the cankerworm that has eaten deep into the society. And for me, I'll be looking forward to a candidate who would say, we're going to deal with corruption from the top to the bottom. That's one. Because when we take out corruption, you see that the funds that are supposed to be used to, you know, equip our security forces will be deployed properly and they will be able to do their job. You will see that the people who know the sponsors of banditry, Boko Haram, will mention their names and they will be taken, whether they are part of government or not, they will be lifted from that point. You see that civil servants who are supposed to be doing their job, signing their papers, will get there on time, do their job, they will be efficient. You see that we will not have issues with power. Corruption is at the root of everything that is happening, even when it comes to education. The funds that are supposed to be used in the universities, the university generating mechanism would also be used properly to attend to the university, so that we're not going back and forth waiting for government to give this bill, revitalization bill, and the other. We'll see that when we take out that corruption from top to bottom, we would have solved, you see all these other issues that we're seeing is the aftermath of the main issue that we have overlooked.
Interestingly,
I've not seen anybody who has, you know, told me that when they get into government, we're spending so much, we want to cut it because we want to see how the funds can.
I think Obi said that.
You know, let me pause you for a second, because that's an interesting perspective, because I haven't heard any of the candidates talk about corruption, and I think they've been careful, because that's what our Buhari used to enter, fight corruption. But I think everybody's being careful that maybe we can't fight corruption. Maybe somewhat we have to have a way to work with this such that at least there's some serious menace. But we'll come to that, because you never know, maybe this is just a perspective, because I haven't seen any of the candidates project corruption as a major thing they want to fight. But let me come to you in your thoughts on.
No, listen, how many times are you gonna put my mom through the same bullshit? Yeah!
This family, they are in the US, they are Ugandan family, they live in America. The kids checked their father's phone. They snooped through their father's messages and found that their father was having conversations with another woman that is not their mother. And they confronted their father in a very, very not so pleasant manner.
Was it just conversation?
You didn't get the brief.
You didn't get the brief now. They saw a video, apparently maybe from the man's phone, where he had a sexual something.
Carnal knowledge.
Oh my God.
On the matrimonial bed. And recorded it. So, yes. So
and you had the gist.
Confronted the man. They were rude. They were, no, I wouldn't use the word rude. They were upset. Yes. And they were talking to the man, using different, you know, really talking to him about everything he's been doing. The man was just sitting down. Humbled, I would say. Or
that's the interpretation.
Yeah, that's right. Or shocked or
embarrassed.
Like, I don't even care. I saw an I don't care attitude. What are you people talking about?
So the conversation is is it right for you, if you see your father or your mother do something wrong to that level, is it right for you to confront them, especially because you are a child? And these are people that raised you. And have we lost the African culture of respectability, or are we saying that regardless, when something is wrong, it doesn't matter if it's your parents, you have to say it out. And even if you want to point it out to your parents, should you use insulting words? Should you embarrass them? Should you totally disregard that, the parenthood factor? And this is my parent.
I don't think this would have been the first time these kids have noticed something like that. They may just have caught, seen this gory video, and then it just sort of raises up everything that had been buried. They may have been seeing this woman being maltreated by the man, always constantly complaining. And I know that most mothers try as much as possible to shield what they are going through from their children. But for how long do you shield this? It gets to a certain age where the kids are, big enough, 19, 20. You can't, even when you are trying to hide, they are seeing how you are being treated on a day-to-day basis. And it becomes a subject to talk about in the home. And I personally agree that, or believe that, family members are supposed to hold each other accountable. Okay. So as you get older, as you're a child, you may be seeing some things. Growing up, I saw a lot of things that I would have questioned, but I was a little girl, and I know that they would slap my face to the back. So I kept quiet. But I got to an age where I would look at my father and say, Dad, this is wrong. Daddy, this is not acceptable. Daddy, don't treat this woman like this. Daddy, if they treat me like this, would you like it when I get married? I started having those conversations. And I'm naturally forceful when I talk. And I took that from him. So we forcefully talk to each other about certain things. And I just noticed that somehow, because of the respect he had for me, that I had not messed up as a child, he started adjusting his ways in how he treated my stepmothers. I saw that growing up. I was able to have that conversation. So now we are raising children who, do we want wholesome children? We need to live by that example. We need to allow them express themselves. Now, how they express themselves may also come from a place of, they've seen a lot of things go wrong and they're just tired. They're not having it anymore. But we, as the children now, may try as much as possible to express ourselves well, even though we're handling parental... children solve issues between their mother and their father.
Really a sad thing that's happened in their home. And I can understand the emotions that were at play. But I feel strongly that there has to be a way a child talks to a parent. That's just how I feel. I'm raising my children to be confident, to be able to express themselves. But I also am very insistent on the manner in which they express themselves with adults, with your parents. My children would not scream and shout at me. I will not accept that. They will not scream and shout at their teacher. I would not accept that. As an employee, you will not go and scream and shout at your boss. There's a way you have to understand to communicate your grievances, your anger. And so for me, the manner in which it was done was wrong. Now, not to be all sanctimonious, I know that in many homes, this sort of confrontation actually happens. Children have been known to raise their voices to their parents, in situations like this. But usually you would have maybe another sibling that is trying to calm the waters and calm the tempers during that time. So for me, it's just that situation. I also do not agree with those who say this is a mother-father conversation. The children should not have been involved. They can be involved in that conversation, but it has to be done in a respectful manner, because whether you like it or not, there's a way that a child has to discuss with the father, even for the father to understand it.
So I'm of the opinion that as a parent, your children are your report card. And in some cases, you might say, I've done my best, my children still turned out this way. They are still your report card. And this is a reflection of their parenting on those children. Those children were raised by a man who can cheat and record a video of himself with another woman on the bed. Obviously, he deserved what he got, and that is who he is. Now, of course, we always say children should like, even if your parents don't raise you well, as you've grown, you will retrain yourself. But the man deserved what he got based on what he did. And we need to stop this idea of we are worshipping our parents, and Africans don't talk back to our parents. Africans don't. As in leadership, in mentorship, your leader leads you, then you lead back. You are mentor, then you reverse mentor that person. In several cases, your parents might not know what they are doing wrong. You correct them.
We took a story earlier today about a king in Ondo State that is having issues because of his religion and the cultural requirements of his stool.
So a traditional monarch, he's the Onikun of Ikun, and the people in his community are accusing him of the death of their promising sons and daughters since he became their monarch for 19 years. They said he didn't do the traditional rites that someone who is a traditional ruler should have taken, because he came as a born-again Christian. And because of his failure to perform those rites, their sons and daughters that are promising in that community are losing their lives. And his response was, I pray with you people, and there's so many other things that I have done for this community. But I guess, as Mariah said, what's the balance?
I think it's a question of which belief is stronger in the hearts of the villagers. Because what the villagers believe would bring them peace and prosperity in their community is for the Oba to comply with the traditional and cultural acts. And since the Oba did not comply, their beliefs are so strong that the reason they are suffering misfortune or deaths of people in their community is because the Oba did not fulfill the cultural rights. And so they feel maybe if he goes, another Oba comes in, and the Oba does the traditional things, peace will reign.
So you're saying it's not about your personal conviction, it's about the people's conviction.
About facts. It's not even about facts. This is just about a belief system. This is about a people that believe culture is what will help us, and this man is not following culture. So if we're having it's like, I believe that if I hit my left leg, something bad might happen. So if I hit my left leg, something bad happens. Oh, is that belief? So that's what I feel it is. But it's a challenge trying to decide what is the most important thing for Nigerians. Because this Oba has said that based on his track record, he has done a lot for the community in terms of providing them access to help, in terms of being a good leader. So, but if they don't believe that's of value to them, how do you now deal with people? Because you can only give them what they feel they want. You cannot give them what they feel they don't need.
Correct, Tokwe, because most of this, as you said, is not based on facts. It's a belief system. That's why it's painful that, when you want to ascend the throne of your ancestors and you plan to deviate from the path of your ancestors, you still have to walk the path they walk to that throne. So first of all, ascend that throne. And when you get on the throne, if changing the ways of your ancestors must happen, you must have to shift minds by educating the people. And so the Oba, yes, might have done a lot of things for his people, but he didn't do anything to change their minds. He did not preach whatever it is, a new religion he practiced. He did not, sell that to the people. So they remained in their ways, and you cannot be at par with the people you're guiding. And I see this because where I'm from, in Edo State, we are largely Muslims. We are predominantly Muslims. Our cultures are now so embedded in Islam that you would never believe it was in the center of Edo State. Over generations, even before the present king, kings continue to change mindsets of people. In the past, when families were doing their burials, you will see all families come out, and the burial is not the party people do in Lagos. It's very expensive as what you do, but it's very core in the what they call traditions. You go into families here, you pay for this, you pay for all of that. But to change the mindset, they first of all brought in the janaza burial that Islam would bring. And so the families mixed it and continue to find a way to do their... that is not party, it's rites. So they continue to do the burial rites underneath. And so some families, as much as their kids, their children, in my own family, for instance, when you get to my place, Akokia family, we continue to sponsor sons and daughters from that family to Islamic schools across the world. When I went to there, I saw my cousin, and he was already an Hafiz. So those were the things my grandfather wanted for his children and grandchildren. So my dad too went to such a school. Was your own... Education was the way. So when you're breaking out as
Islamic education.
Yes, as the person of knowledge. My father was the first my grandfather sent to gain Islamic education. He couldn't finish it up. And so he had broken his family out of that. And before my father passed, he made sure that the burial, those rites, are exempted. He continued to say it and made sure on his own. Every family member knew. So it's not possible that I will be made to carry out those rights.